Perfectionism often looks harmless on the surface until you realize it's running your life. You rewrite social media posts 10 times, tweaking every word, and still don't hit publish. You reread every text message before you send it, sometimes a dozen times, just to make sure it sounds right. You might be delaying a launch. You might be delaying launching your program, your podcast, or your book, not because you're lazy, but because it's not perfect yet. And you might be replaying the conversations in your mind, zooming in on everything you should have said. This isn't high standards, it's survival. It's a subconscious program wired into your brain that says, if you're not perfect, you'll be rejected, you'll be left behind, you'll lose love, safety, connection. I'm Crystal Derksen, your co-host, the co-host of the Robert Jean Experience, and I'm here with your host, Robert Jean, behavioral engineer, drug rehab consultant, and the creator of eutaptics and FasterEFT. In this episode, Robert pulls back the curtain on perfectionism. He's going to talk about the real cost it's extracting from your life and why it's actually the lowest standard that you can hold yourself to. So if you're ready to reclaim your time, your creativity, and your confidence, this episode is your wake-up call. And here is your host, Robert.
Yeah, well, very important topic, such a big controller for sure. Perfectionism. And why is trying to be perfect a very low standard? That's a good question. I remember my oldest son, his name's Adam, and he goes, Dad, your videos that you're posting aren't perfect. I said, I know, because I created them. I said, if I wait to be perfect, I'd never have anything put up. So, and so the key for me is I had to figure out, let go of being perfect and just do the best you can. And again, that's a major driver for a lot of people trying to be perfect. And the question is why?
Yes, exactly. And, people dress up perfectionism as excellence or high standards. And so, from your perspective, can you explain to our listeners what is perfectionism?
Well, if we look at perfectionism, again, people want to be perfect. And the reason why they want to be perfect and the reason behind it is one, they were emotionally conditioned to do the best job possible, but not really the best job. They were trained to be perfect. For example, Crystal, you would come home from school and you made a 98 on your test. And you show your mom and you're so proud. She goes, where's those other 2 points?
Mhm.
And then of course you walk away and says, I'm not perfect. I got to try harder. I got to try to be perfect as I can. And this is a lot of it where it comes from. So you'll never be perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. You can be excellent, do the best job you can, but the driving force behind perfectionism creates a lot of problems in people's lives, all consuming.
Right. So then how is it formed in someone's life? So how is it created?
Well, the beginning of perfectionism, it really starts at home, and there's many avenues to perfectionism. One example would be if I were perfect, maybe my mom and dad won't fight and they won't get a divorce. So they work so hard, try to do everything right to keep things together. Another one is if I'm perfect, maybe I won't burn in hell when I die, religious trainings. If I'm perfect, I won't be humiliated like other students in school. So perfectionism is actually trying to keep bad things from happening, really. And again, if I'm perfect, maybe you'll love me. So it's another one of those programs. If I'm perfect,
Yes.
maybe someone will love me. So there's much more and reasons why. Like
Yeah.
another one is you have older siblings and they're always getting in trouble, so you vowed not to be doing bad things. So you're going to try to be a perfect little daughter or a sister or sibling. There's many programs behind this.
Right. Ooh, that one makes a lot of sense. Especially because we don't think we have I guess in my mind, I always thought that it was that I got most of my trauma from my parents, but there's a lot of sibling trauma that has come up.
Oh yeah.
And within that sibling trauma, like if you had narcissistic parents, then what would happen? What if they started saying, well, you're a good little sister. You know, she did all these things
Oh
right.
yeah. Oh yeah.
You bad,
Mhm.
like, and you take on your list. Those are
Yeah.
all programs. Yeah.
But why aren't you as smart as the girl across the street? Why
Yes.
aren't you making better grades? Yeah, so
Yes.
yeah, and just throw the misnomer out. All parents are narcissistic, okay? Some more extreme than others, some less. But yeah, there's again, um, the perfection program, we're emotionally indoctrinated to be perfect. And again, the bad thing about perfectionism, even if it's good, there's still something wrong.
Okay, so with what you just said, first of all, I think we need to talk to our listeners about like what narcissism really is, because they might hear you say
Yeah,
this for the very first time.
yeah, yeah. Well, narcissism again. My definition, understanding of narcissism is one. It's pretty one sentence. My way's the right way. You should do it my way, and if you don't do it my way, I will find ways to encourage you. You
That's
know?
that sounds like parenting.
Yeah, exactly. That not parenthood is narcissistic. Religions, most of them are narcissistic. My way's
Okay.
the right way. You should do it my way. My way's right. Again, every person on the planet will use some of the tactics that we would deem narcissistic. These are just survival skills. If you deal and you know anyone who you very seldom will ever meet someone who is diagnosed narcissistic. They do have patterns, they do have tactics, right? So these are just tactics. And if you look at the person who you would deem narcissistic, you're going to look behind their eyes and see they had a crappy childhood. They had abuses, they had traumas, they had low self esteem, they've been beaten, they abused, hurt, whatever it is, insecure. And again, so the opposite side or the perfection side, they're going to try to push that away and try to pretend to be perfect, pretend everything's right. My way's the right way, etc. So perfectionism is borderline narcissistic tactic because again, you got to put the makeup on. You got to make sure your hair is perfect. Make sure your clothes are perfect, so nothing bad will happen to you. They won't make fun of you. They won't beat up on you, and you're going to be a representation of my perfect family. Even though when you open the door and you shut the door inside of the house, it's not perfect, but you got to hide and pretend everything's good. So there's a lot of variables with this program.
Hmm. So for the parents that are listening, what is something that they can do to prevent being the narcissistic, perfectionistic parent?
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it, it's your job to make sure your kids do a great job. Again, some parents live their life through their kids, and so they're going to drive their kids harder to make up for what the parents didn't do or their own guilt. And again, it's there's a lot of weirdness to this because again, you just think about parenthood is that I have to it's my responsibility to make those kids to become a good kid,
Right.
raise them the way I want.
Yeah, and there might be underneath it like a driver of guilt. Like if these kids do something, it's
Mm-hmm.
my fault.
Yeah, and right, and again, a lot of this is passed down from their parents and how their parents treated you.
Hmm.
So again, there's a snowball effect of all this stuff. So there's a lot of negative side effects with this too. A lot of negative side effects. First of
Hmm.
all, if you try and be perfect, it's all consuming. You spend a lot of time trying to make sure it's perfect.
Right.
Of course, when you do that, there's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of pressure. And then, of course, when you've been doing it for so long, you get to the point, Liz, you procrastinate. Why even try? It's not going to be perfect anyway. Why
Hmm.
even try? They won't love me no matter how hard I try, you know?
Hmm. That's
So
right.
again, and then, of course, they want to be perfect so you don't get scolded, hurt, punished, demoted, shamed, guilted.
Yeah.
So it's an internal conditional self-worth program. If I'm only perfect.
Mhm.
I'll be somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any teaching on that or any courses
On which part?
on parental or parent for parents for children?
Well, we do have a course helping parents with children,
Hmm.
but when we're talking about um, being a person, you're a person, and you have programs, internally emotionally conditioned programs from our life. That means from your parents, your siblings, your teachers, the preachers, the rabbis, the voodoo guys, whoever it is, impressing upon you to be perfect. Those are what I would consider traumas. Now, again, my world, a trauma doesn't mean it's rape or a beating or a murder. A trauma is an experience that impacts your identity, your value, how you see the world, and how you to operate within that world in a safe way. So a traumatic experience is first of all, this is traumatic. You come home, like I said, you make straight A's, except it's a 98 out of 100, and she goes, "Where's the other 2 points?" Now, of course, when you hear that, you go, "Oh, I'm still not good enough. She doesn't love me." So again, that's a trauma. So then from that event, you're going to try even harder to be perfect, harder to get it right.
Hmm.
So these are now remember, traumas are positive and negative. A positive trauma would be a positive emotional experience that will change how you view things, change how you view yourself, change how you operate in the world as well. The negative ones have survival written all over it to keep you alive and safe. And so the thing is when I help people who have quote unquote perfectionism, it's driven by hurt and pain, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, emotional traumas and experiences. Now, and when I say emotional traumas, it doesn't have to be a beating. It could be just a look. It could be just a few words. Or matter of fact, it could be watching somebody else who didn't do a good job and they're hurt, shamed, blamed, and guilted in front of you. Then you learn from that. Then you're going to try to be perfect too. So that won't happen to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard time relating to the parents caring what your grades would be, but I absolutely remember in school the first time one of my friends said to me, "I'm gonna get in so much trouble for their grades." And I thought, really? You would get in trouble for that? And my parents didn't even look at our grades. They didn't care. They had their own internal struggles and they were in their
Right.
own world. So I do, that's how I knew that some parents, that's how I knew
Right.
that some parents cared.
Yeah. Well, again, if you look at your life, I mean, I don't know much about your life, but I assure you, there are things that your mother did or your father did that said you better not do that, or you're going to be rejected, hurt, or harmed. That is also so now you're learning from that. So, oh, I got to be perfect. I got to do something, make sure it doesn't happen to me again. So
Mhm.
again, it doesn't have to be grades. It could be, keep your mouth shut, to be seen and not heard, which a lot of children have had that too.
Yes, absolutely. And the comparison, that happened a lot.
Yeah.
Lots of comparison. So then you had to now reach the standard that so and so was like whether it was in hockey or if it was in academics.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So there is something, there's a difference between a high achiever and a perfectionist. Can you tell us what is the difference between the two of them, or are they the same?
Right. Well, first of all, like I said earlier, perfectionism means you got to be perfect, and perfection doesn't exist.
Right.
Uh, but again, remember, even if you did a great job, you still find something wrong. If somebody compliment you because of a good job, go, yeah, but so there's always something. Now, a high achiever is someone who just gets in there and gets stuff done, and they have goals in their mind that they want to accomplish something. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, and they probably know it's not going to be perfect, but they're going to do the best job they can at the time.
Hmm.
So again, there's a lot of people who have their to-do list, and their job is to get the to-do list done. Again, perfectionism could be a part of why you do it to finish the list, or you just want to feel good to get something done.
Hmm. Got it.
So
Okay.
it's the celebration of accomplishments, And and most perfectionism do not celebrate the accomplishments. They'll look at it and say, oh, I should have done better, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Okay,
or they didn't get their fix from doing a good job.
there we go.
And
Yes.
and the fix would be, oh, I love you, you're great, good job, or something. And they may not even get the fix. And again, remember, all behaviors is driven by a desired outcome or a desired avoidance of something, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday when we talked, I told you I can't relate to perfectionism because I don't have to cross every T. I don't have to dot every I. I put out my material. I don't really care. I'll have people message me, Crystal, your grammar was off here, or Crystal, you made a mistake over there. And it really, that just tells me about their internal world. And I think, oh, perfectionist, but yay, I don't really care. But when we spoke yesterday, you said some things, and I realized that my perfectionism, it isn't about doing things well. So it's not about a standard of excellence necessarily, even though I did have that while I was in the church.
Mhm.
But now I would say I have those programs around avoiding pain. And I know
Right.
there's other people that will relate to this because they might not see themselves as a perfectionist either, but they might be avoiding pain. So even for this podcast, my I would go the extra mile to prepare, and I would go the extra mile to prepare because what if, and people can be cruel. And so what if someone would write in the comments,
Mhm.
like there's talking about the way I talk, talking about the way I look, like having their
Mhm.
opinion and then
Mhm.
get out there. So I'd rather avoid pain than
Mhm.
criticism.
Right. Now, by the way, again, like I said to you yesterday, that's a perfectionism program.
Yes.
You've got to make sure you do it right. You got to make sure that you say the right things, you get the right write up, the right title, or better yet, you don't want to say anything. You don't mind doing a video with words, but you don't want to say anything because you don't want to screw that up either. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, and I would say my excuse for that would be my coach told me to. So,
Mhm.
because that's the way we're doing social media these days.
Mhm.
But I would have to agree with you. It is much easier to put words on a screen than to show up talking all the time because they're
Right.
they're listening to my grammar. They might hear my Mennonite accent, or they might, so, or
Your
they might say
tonality.
you're
Or like again, one of the assignments I gave you is listen to your voice and tap out any negativity towards your voice. Because again, you're one of your coaches in the early days who said, shut up, be quiet. And you heard him say that to your mother. So now you've took this training and now you don't want to say anything, you know? And so again, you're be perfect. Do as you're told. Don't break the rules. You'll get punished. You'll get hurt. You'll be rejected. You're not good enough.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to all of those, and I can see where I go the extra mile. So it
Hmm.
doesn't have to necessarily be in excellence, but there's lots of different programs around
Yeah.
perfectionism.
Yeah. So the real question is, why are you doing what you do?
That's
What
good.
internally is driving you? Is it passion or the avoidance of pain? Is it that I want to do a great job because I feel good about it, or I want to do a great job because I'm afraid something bad will happen? You
Hmm.
know, the slightest criticism will collapse you. No matter
Yeah.
how hard you try, the slightest word would just break you. Again, now these are all of these programs are usually early on trained little traumas in school with parents, siblings, teachers, priests, rabbis, whoever it is that's in your life, because they whoosh, pointed out, humiliated, embarrassed, shamed. And so your OCD, obsessive compulsive, it's not a disorder, is a survival skill trying to stay alive. So you're going to try and you're going to check and recheck and make sure it's good. Now, I like people who are a slightly perfectionist. but not overly obsessive compulsive perfectionist. Because no matter how good it is, they're going to read it 20 more times, right?
Yes, and they won't send it.
Yeah,
They won't finish the work. That's where
right.
they're noticing, okay, I have a problem because I've
Hmm.
been dreaming of writing this book for 20 years, but I haven't done it,
Or whatever it is, right? But
right?
see,
Or whatever it is.
another thing is when they're going to do this in their mind, they know what people think are going to say to them about whatever it is. So in their mind, they're imagining someone criticizing them. So that's another emotional angst that gets you up, try to make it perfect, and then, of course, even if you send it, you're the critic,
Hmm.
and you're still never good enough.
Right. Yes. And so what do you recommend for people that are listening and they want to become more aware? Is there,
Well, right. Well, awareness is 1/100th start of a change. I mean, you can be aware why you do it, why you think you got to be perfect. Awareness is a great one, but the how to change it neurologically is the key because all behaviors, every behavior, you name it, is driven by proof and references internally, whether you consciously know it or unconsciously know it. And a lot of times you do stuff and don't even know why you do it, but you do it, and then you beat yourself up because you do it. That's the well, I would call the limbic driving system or the unconscious programmings that you autonomically respond without even knowing why, even though logically you know you shouldn't, you still do. That's that program that has been conditioned because of life experiences, which is basically breaks down to memories and references. So to end the cycle, you got to go back what installed the cycle or the pattern, which is the criticism of mom. And a lot of people in their internal voice is the voice of their mother criticizing them or their father criticizing them. And it becomes their own self criticism and
that's
perfectionism trying to be driven.
Yes, exactly. And if you're listening and you missed the episode on ultimate forgiveness, you'll want to go back, listen to that episode. It is so good where Robert talks about what ultimate forgiveness really is, and it's looking inward. It's I'll let you describe it to
Mhm.
people.
Well, all problems, every one that you have, every issue you have is generated and created from an experience. All right. So, like, for example, me or you or anyone else, like, say, for example, myself, Father's Day is coming up this weekend. I think it's this weekend. And
Yes.
of course, my number one healer in my life will be my father. Now, when I say that, I had a lot of hurts and pains and abuses and beatings and you name it in my mind. And of course, he died in 1990 in a car accident, which I was very bothered that he died because it was fast. He didn't get to suffer much. That was my attitude. I
Oh,
had so much
wow.
anger towards him. And of course, at that time, I was still searching and working, trying to heal myself. And of course, in '99, I found a course that is a psycho process, and I began to psychophysical process, emotional process, and I started working on myself. So to forgive is not going to my dead father or having some seance and say, I need to forgive you, Dad. It has nothing
Yeah,
to do with forgiveness and unforgiveness has everything to do with you, not what they did.
that's
And
right.
so that means that if you understand memory, so right now you guys are having this experience with us. You're watching us. This is an experience. But this experience will have an impact you only if your brain takes something from this and use it. Now you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. You can be traumatized by some of the stuff I said. So now you're going to be traumatized by not what I said or not what your parents did, but rather what your brain captured, internalized, and used on you, which means in reality, my father was a representation of myself because I internalized him from the experiences. So ultimate forgiveness is not going to my father who died or going to your brother or your sister or anyone else and say, I forgive you. Ultimate forgiveness is going inside yourself and changing the memories of pain. And when I say you literally internally shift and change the memory. Now, when I say that, some of you are going, oh, you can't change memories. If I change memories, who am I going to be? I said happier and better off. Trust me on that one, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
but the problem is that we internalized events. Those events become archives or idols of our life, and we replicate until we die. Well, the bad thing is, some of these are not really very beneficial. At the time, they were, it kept you alive and safe, but now it becomes a noose around your neck that drags you down. And it also makes you inactive. Now, I'm not even going to try because no matter what I do, it won't work. So why try? Right?
Mhm.
Or you'll be so anxious and nervous and because you won't be perfect and hoping it will be okay.
Mhm.
So ultimate forgiveness is ultimately this. You change the memories you hold inside yourself and that you held against someone else, which really is about you.
Mhm.
So that's ultimate forgiveness. So now, by the way, all problems are generated by memories internalized, and perfectionism is driven by mostly pain, hurt, shame, rejections, betrayals. Now, let me say this, it's really important. You can go to Joe Dispenza, Gupta, DNRS, ayahuasca, rebirthing therapy, psychotherapy, and if they do not change memory, you're just having an experience for a while. Memories is what drives your craziness. Memories is what produces amazingness. And you're a success. Your perfectionism is a successful tactic trying to stay safe, but it also becomes the noose around your neck that drags you down because it doesn't actually work.
Yeah. So go to the memory.
You
Whatever
got it? Yeah.
captured, go to the memory. And if you are in a therapy that doesn't know how to change memories, then
Find something better.
find something better.
Because again, the cause of all problems, I mean, you've heard it said, change your mind, change your life. Let's do it really what it really means. Change your memories, and your life will follow the change.
Yes, well said. I love
I
that.
mean, you're to be anxious and to be fearful has a reason internally.
That's right.
Panic attacks, panic attacks, anxiety are all successful outcomes based on internalizations of things that are not so good and the fear of something bad's going to happen.
Mhm.
All of these are changeable. Now, by the way, guys, I'm a behavioral engineer. I help people change unpleasant behaviors by adjusting, rewriting, updating memory. Memories are not stuck, real, and permanent. They're malleable. Some people take a good memory and make it bad. Some people take a bad memory and make it worse. And if you're really smart and talented with great skills and understanding of how the mind works, you can take bad and turn it into gold.
Well
And
said.
that's what I do. And by the way, guys, you can check my YouTube videos. People use my modality, my teaching, my philosophies to heal their bodies from incurable diseases. Blood tested there, blood tested gone. Anxieties, fears, and phobias. Now, it's not me. It's really the mechanics of the mind. And science has proven this one fact. The mind has a great ability to heal itself. Now they don't call it that. They will call it a single one word from a researcher with a lemon in his mouth. This freaking placebo effect is ruining our good research. Now, placebo is proving that the mind of the individual is healing themselves and changing themselves. It's not the sugar pill. It's not the fake operation. It is the power of the mind. Now, if you can utilize that powerful resource within you, because remember, that powerful resource within you created depression, anxiety, fears, phobias. It created all kinds of crazy stuff, successfully so, by using internal references. So if you can go change those, you'll be manifesting something the opposite of what you said you don't want, which is
Yes.
joy, love, peace, kindness, temperance, and most importantly, be in control of the self.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. So most of the listeners that have heard you talk for a long time, they already know that the body's an honest expression of the mind, that whatever is happening in the mind is going to be expressed in the body.
Right, right.
So with this perfectionistic program, we can see it in our habits, what we're doing, but what are the physical manifestations of perfectionism?
The negative side effects.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
how does it show up in the body? So if the body is
Well,
the honest
well,
expression of the mind.
no, well, just think about it. First of all, you have to be perfect, right? And there's a part of you knows that you'll never be perfect. Therefore, it creates anxiety in your body, right? So it creates
Yes.
anxiety in the body. And then, of course, if it creates anxiety in the body, it could create stomach problems, back problems, heart problems, high blood pressure, because again, you're still in the war, the battle
Mhm.
of trying to be perfect to avoid being shot with rejections, abandonments, and betrayals, disappointment. So a lot of people who have these programs, it's just like it's no difference than David who comes to see me. For 43 years, he can't sleep no more than 2 hours at a time, no matter how much whiskey he drinks, no matter what sleeping pills he takes. Now, again, it's been going on for 43 years. And of course, he met me and he goes, what do you do? I'm a behavioral engineer, neuroplastician. How people change the worst possible memories in their life, knock strokes off their golf game. He goes, even complex PTSD? I said, of course. So he comes into my office. I clean up a major one memory, super big memory that has impacted his whole life. As a matter of fact, that image in his mind from that experience is what kept him awake. Now, when I adjusted and changed the memory of that experience, he said, I'm not there anymore.
Mm.
So, what happens to the perfectionist? They still feel like they're in the battle of the war trying to stay safe. And this perfectionism is a weapon try to keep bad things from happening. But the bad thing is it's now happening in sleep problems. It happens in stomach problems. It happens in back pains, pressures, uh, fibromyalgia, ME, lupus, Hashimoto. All these diseases are the body's reaction for fear of, and it's internalized. And we're trying to stay safe somehow. So there's a lot of things that will occur because of trying to be perfect, which is also trying to be safe.
Yeah, and that matches the statistics, whatever you're saying here about the how it shows up as anxiety, depression, because the statistics say that approximately 30 to 40% of people with perfectionism will have anxiety and depression. The other one that how it's expressed, and this is not necessarily physical, but it could turn out physical, and I don't know what the word would be when someone is burned out.
Right.
And
Worn out. I would say worn out.
yeah, and so they're saying burnt out, and it's about 60% of perfectionists that report experience some kind of burnout in their life.
Oh, yeah.
So whether it's with the adrenal glands, burnout, there's no more cortisol left,
Right.
and
Right.
that would be tied to Hashimoto's, is that right?
Yeah. Hashimoto's, lupus. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then along with the statistics, the self-criticism out of everything that had to do with perfectionism, self-criticism, nearly 80% of perfectionists experience persistent negative self-talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So again, where's the negative self-talk? Most of the times it's coming from the parent and what they said and how they said it.
There we go.
And
Exactly.
we're using that model of the world to create our world today. Now, remember this, most people, like I said earlier, when you remember what's happened in your mind from the past, so you remember how your mother said, you're worthless, you'll never amount to anything, where's those other 2 points, etc. Even though mom's dead and gone, this is a training on how to be a good student or a good member of the family. So now we have those memories of her, what she said, those become our modus operandi. That means that's how we operate. So the voices in our head, it says you're never going to be good enough, whatever this is written from your past, from what your mother said. So you're actually mimicking the behavioral pattern that you learned from her or your dad or whoever it is.
Hmm.
And not even saying, well, it's almost like they divide themselves up into two different parts. Of course, my mind have a mind of its own, and yet I am a victim to my own mind. Now,
Mhm.
that is a sad place, to be, because again, your mind and your consciousness are divided. And you know what they say, a divided house falls, a divided mind falls. And so now you have this battle within yourself. And the bad thing is, you're going to go to a therapist, you're going to a talk
Right.
therapist.
Hmm.
And they're going to tell you, well, you've got bipolarism, you got manic depressive, you're obsessive compulsive, you got some kind of disorder. And then you go, oh, thank you, Jesus. I just thought I was crazy. I just bipolar manic depressive.
Right. Here's my label. That's what I have.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
see, the problem is you're going to someone who doesn't know how to change memories.
Right.
That's the cause.
Hmm.
And so now you built this value system that's you'll never change. But like David, when you change the events that contributed to the perfectionism program, you let it go. Now you can just be great without any pressure, without any judgment, without any hurt or harm to the self. You just do a great job. Now I'm not a perfectionist. Now I do like things well. I will look at it, go, how can I make it better? I did a great
Right.
job, but
Right.
I'm always fine tuning because I'm a self-progressive type person.
Hmm.
Never have I been perfect. Never will I be perfect.
Right. And you keep saying that. You keep saying that. But so here's the religious teaching that might be a program still left in me
Mhm.
because I go back to scripture where God is love. And then I think, okay, so collectively, our goal then would be to be love. And love is perfect. Scripturally, love is perfect. So I really want to know how, like you've done a lot of studying, you've studied history, you are very aware of history and how it repeats itself. But I really want to know, like, where did we get this programming of that we have to be perfect? Because it feels like that's still what I'm trying to attain somehow.
Right. Well, hey, listen, I have a church, the first church of love. I'm gonna make this up. It's not true.
Okay.
All right. So in order for me to control my petition, my audience,
Congregation.
yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta be able to have an upper hand. Right. In order to have an upper hand, you got to have a set of rules that's unachievable.
Holy moly. Okay.
And so if you have a goal that is unachievable, but the desire to be perfect, of course, there is a lot of mistranslation, interpretation that's in the modern day version of the Bible. Of course, if you know anything in history of the Bible, it was put together by a Roman ruler 400 years, no, wait, 400 years later, Constantine created the Bible and he hired these guys and put it together. And then
Yeah.
they went and killed everybody who didn't agree with that book. And there's a lot of others missing. And then, of course, King James translates the Latin and the Greek version, and they're using words that weren't used back in the time when all this stuff was written. But to be perfect doesn't mean perfectionism. Again, do the best job you can. Now, if you ever got your concordance out, there's a lot of things that God said He isn't that you don't know about. He's not perfect, and He'll tell you that. He's told you a lot of things He screwed up, in the Bible, literally in the Bible. But
Hmm.
see, there's some that's going to nitpick some pieces of it, and they're going to use it as a weapon, so something you can never achieve.
Hmm.
What
Yes.
is now, of course, of course, in the Bible, it's more than say anything. Fear not, said more than anything.
Yes.
Fear not.
Right.
Again, what is fear? In my world, I understand fears are affirmations.
Hmm.
Also call a fear is a wish. Because when you have a fear of something, you don't have a fear, you do a fear, which means you imagine the worst thing happening.
Hmm.
And again, you create a theater of it, you create anxiety with it because that's what fears is a self-protective system. But the thing is, if you make peace with the fear, you get the wisdom and you leave the pain behind.
Yes. Hmm.
So there is a bizarreness of all this stuff. Now remember, for me to have power over you, I got to have a set of rules that you can't accomplish. And again, most
Wow.
Now, Jesus does talk about changing memories, but most people can't see it because they're thinking differently. But
Right.
if you go to a system, it doesn't matter what kind of system it is, if they can't adjust and change internalization of the world, how you represent things, how you hold memories, you're just going to be swatting flies in the dark and hit nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll never accomplish anything. So I worked with a woman just yesterday. She's tried every therapy you can imagine, you know? And again, so she booked a session with me. And within, I mean, stuff that she beat furniture with, she ayahuasca with, you
Yes.
name it, she did it all. It was still there after 66 years.
Yes.
Go in, I clean it up, and now it's not there. And we're talking, I did a 2 hour session. We cleaned up some really big, juicy, strong emotional memories. And when
Wow.
we're done, she goes back, well, I can't find it. I can't feel it. I can't see it.
That's
You know, it
amazing.
happened, but it doesn't have any value.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of therapies out there. I remember the first time I went for counseling, I think I was early 20s, and she had me throwing
Had you what?
she had me throwing plates. So she said, go to the thrift store, buy a big box, and every time your husband does something, you take that plate and smash it. And I thought, that's interesting. I didn't listen to her because I thought that's a little like, I don't know, that just seems like wasteful. And there's got to be a better way than breaking
Right.
things. So,
Well, remember, they don't know how to change the cause.
yes,
They don't have to
yeah.
change memory. So now they're gonna, it's like this one lady, she went in this, I don't know what the therapy's called, but she will go into this pool and the pool is salt water. And so it's in the dark, they're floating in this saltwater pool. And then when she got done, she told her therapist how good that felt, how she felt like something was changed. And the therapist goes, I wonder what kind of salt did they use? And the woman said, well, what I did is that they're floating around in this pool, darkness. I thought, well, maybe I should just forgive people. So
Wow.
the so for the few hours she was forgiving and addressing and changing
Right.
and creating some peace within herself. It's
Yeah.
not the salt. It's the going in inside yourself and making peace. Now,
Hmm.
again, there's going to be people don't even know you can change memories.
True.
They think it's stuck real and permanent, and it's not. That's why when I ask people, how many in this room would like to improve their memory, all hands go up. Well, because memories are not stuck real and permanent. They are adjustable. So there's some people who've had a stroke or head trauma, and they get to learn how to walk and write, and their character and their personality shifts because the memories have been dislodged.
Hmm. Yeah.
So again, it's like somebody said, "Well, I just wish a lobotomy would work, you know, or electric
Yeah.
shock treatment, you know." And this one woman, this is a
Yes.
true story. She had 11 electric shock treatments,
Yeah.
11.
I've seen
And
it.
it's based on one basic trauma, which she came to my seminar. I pulled her up front and I addressed this trauma. And all of a sudden, the electric shock treatment started to work. Oh, well, it don't bother me anymore, right? Or like the client, she comes in, she goes, you know, I've been on antidepressants for 10 years and now they're starting to work. He said, you really think that that's what's working now? What about all the memories we've been changing the last 3 weeks? You know?
Right. Wow. Wow.
So to be perfect is probably more like just be the best you can. That's it.
Right. Yes.
No,
Yeah.
no judgment, no criticism.
Hmm. So anytime that someone gives you a standard, and I'm not like, mm, I don't know, because I don't want to say that in a workplace, because there is a certain standard of work, and
Yeah,
you do your job.
right.
But if someone wants you to accomplish something and the bar of perfectionism just keeps on moving, you never
Yeah,
attain
right.
it, then you know there's something wrong here.
Well, again, obviously you picked a job that matches your parents.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know,
Right.
you're going to play a
Yeah.
game that you know how to play, and the people in the job is learn that pattern as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Never being good enough, always pushing harder.
Right. And then do you find that when people start, they start looking at the memories around perfectionism, that they start attracting, different I don't even want to say authorities. Like, let's say they have a boss that was like, strict, criticizing. Now,
Mhm.
are they going to experience their boss differently? What
Yeah,
have,
they will translate. You have to understand. I don't have a pair of glasses here, but if you have to understand, people see through a set of glasses. That means they
yeah.
see the world from their point of view. Here's a set of
Oh,
glasses.
yeah, exactly. There we go.
These are readers. I never wear them though. So people see the world from a perception of the world. So that means if for example, if you see you're never good enough, no matter how good enough and people compliment you and commend you, you don't see it, you don't accept it, you reject it because it doesn't match what you believe about yourself inside yourself. So one of the things that I do with people, they remake themselves. They make peace with what's inside themselves, and they create a new self by changing the unpleasant memories inside.
You said something to the effect that the compliment, you're not going to be able to receive a compliment if it doesn't match how you see yourself.
Right, right.
That is so eye-opening right there. So
Mhm.
if someone says to you, good job, and it's like, I could have done better, and you're not really
Yeah,
receiving the compliment
right.
because it's not matching your inner world. So that's another
Yeah.
area where we can see, okay, well, I must have a program if I'm not receiving this compliment.
Mhm.
It's not matching my
Very,
inner
very, very,
world.
very common. Very common. By the way, you have a nice shirt, very nice blouse you're wearing.
Thank you. I really love this one.
Okay, good. So note, but some people say, yeah, well, it's 10 years old. I bought it at Walmart for $3. So they won't even accept a compliment.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
won't. Again, so when they compliment me, I say, God, you're really a great person. I like you. you know, you know, because if you can't receive a compliment and you're always fault finding yourself, that's why your life is so stressed out. That's why you're miserable. That's why no matter how many accomplishments you've accomplished, it means nothing to you.
Mhm.
So that's the danger of perfectionism.
Yes. And so this is why we recreate the inner world, our inner world, and
Mhm.
recreate our life.
Yeah. Basically,
Amazing.
basically make peace with yourself, know yourself, be kind within yourself, do the right things for yourself, you know.
Yeah. And then another thing that when we spoke yesterday, this statement that you made, it actually made my top 10 of the most shocking things that Robert has ever said list. It made the list. You said perfectionism is actually the lowest standard.
Yeah.
That was shocking for me to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm not the
Because
only one. I know that I'm not the only one.
yeah, you know why? It can never be achieved. No matter how hard you try, you can never do it. Never. Now there may be moments of time you feel good about something, but you cannot be perfect. It's impossible. It doesn't exist. You can do an
Wow.
excellent job. You can do a great job
Hmm.
because what you deem as perfect, the guy next to you thinks it's a shit, you know?
Right. True.
Yeah,
Right. And it's
it's all
based
in
on, yeah, it's based on our inner world. And
translation and interpretation. Yeah.
mhm. Wow, that's quite the statement. I know other people are going, that right there is really a perception shift. It's an excellent reframe. It helps people finally settle within themselves. Wow, I don't have to be perfect. I'm
Hmm.
not even going to attain perfect because I think for
Hmm.
me, there was a little bit of something fixed inside of me where it said, well, I still have to attain this. And if it's not something in the 3D realm or in the physical realm here, then I would try to attain something spiritually. So which is enlightenment. And you're not going to attain that. Like we're not attaining perfection here. It doesn't
Right.
exist.
You can't be something that didn't exist. And
Wow.
I mean, I have a long list of scriptures where God clearly says he screwed up. He's not perfect. He made mistakes. He's angry. He sends evil onto other people, you know?
Mhm.
So you just got to get this perfectionism out. And, of course, some of the biggest things about perfectionism is so many fears are here.
Yes.
It defines you, it controls you, manipulates you. Um, it restricts you. It keeps you from doing things that you should do, but then again, you won't for fear of not getting it right or the too much pressure of even trying because of their own internal conflicts. And then it affects your identity, your value system. It dictates your life. It controls your existence, and it
Yep.
separates you from who you really are to try to create something you're not. It's
Mhm.
it's like, especially there's a form of narcissism that you got to be perfect in the eyes of everyone. You don't want them to know who you really are. So you got to be really trying to paint the picture good. The makeup's on heavy. They put on a show because they're trying to look perfect in the eyes of other people because they don't really want people to know what happens at home or what happens inside me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of
There's
crazy
a
this.
there's yeah, that sounds like a mask. I'm gonna wear the mask. You're not gonna
Yeah.
really see me.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I want to talk to the people also that are that struggle with, wanting to keep it. Because what if like there's some payoffs with
Oh
having the
yeah.
perfectionism.
Oh yeah.
And everyone knows somebody that was at the top of their class, and that person was, they had like the straight A's, they were really good at sports.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I can imagine, and I probably need to tap that out because I can imagine that for them, that they needed to now attain that standard everywhere they went. So this is like the person who's top of the class.
Hmm.
They don't want to lose their edge. So they might be listening to this. I am one of those people. I am at the top of my class. I am really smart. I do very well at everything. So they have a payoff here to keep it.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I want to say this again. The foundation behind a perfectionist and someone who does an excellent job. The difference between the two, one of them is driven by pain and the avoidance of pain, and the other is driven by passion and desire to produce.
To create.
Big difference.
Big difference. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So if there's any pain there when you're underneath it all,
Right. Well, when
waiting.
we say pain, we're talking about the fear of and because of being rejected, abandoned, hurt, or abused, or whatever it is that drives them. Now, again,
Yeah.
if you're driven by passion, that means I just love to do this. I love being the best. I love doing this. I really enjoy creating this. And if, and there's no perfection here drawn out. I just do a great job. Well, that was
Mhm.
good. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I get that. All right. And then what does it look like on the other side of perfectionism? So what does it look like to not I guess surrender to that perfectionism program or live with it? What does it look on the other side?
What does that mean? Look on the other side. Like how would they
So
act?
yeah, no, not beyond the veil. So what I mean is what does it look like without the perfectionism program? Like what does life look like? What does every day
Well,
look like?
well, I would think that they're driven by passion and desire. I would think that again, their value doesn't come from what they do. Their value is who they are, and who they
Yes.
are produces. Because
Hmm.
see, there's a model called be, do, have. Be, I'm being, therefore I do, and I have. Most people are driven, if I do this, I will be this. Big difference. What
Yes.
drives you is the main course of the meal. It's the main thing. Are you great? Are you amazing? Or are you, if you do this, you might be great. You might be amazing. And that's usually the perfectionist program. If I do this, I
Right.
will be that.
Hmm. Yes. Any closing thoughts?
Um, yeah, I'd just say one thing, and this is really so important. It's the same thing I say, is know your inner world. Know how to adjust the inner world. Know how to change the bad stuff inside you. Make peace with the past, which means is really ultimate forgiveness, and do a great job just because you love doing a great job. No other reason other than you just like to be good at what you do. No perfection, just be good. Just do the best you can. And if you don't like it, next time, do it differently. Learn from your experiences.
That is such wisdom right there, and it's so freeing. So thank you to everyone for hanging out with us today. And if you want to take the next step, don't forget to sign up for Robert's free 5-day online course. It's packed full of practical tools that will help you to get started on changing your brain and your life. And if you have any questions or if you have any topics that you want us to cover,
Hmm.
go ahead and email the office at what is the email address? Skills to
I
Change.
guess. Yeah, office@skillstochange.com.
There we go. And we'll have the link. We'll have the link in the comments or in the description area.
So remember, when this call is over, go to skillstochange.com and sign up for the free course. Remember, remember, remember.
Yes. All right. Thank you for being with us.
Peace. You know, when you say, I say, and don't forget, you know what you're saying? Forget.
Forget. Forget. Did I say that again? Thanks for letting me know.
That's the reason I said, remember, remember,
Yes.
sign up.
Okay. So maybe let me just do that again.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So thank you for hanging out with us again today. And don't there we go.
Forget, forget, forget.
Forget, forget Robert's free 5-day online free course. It's so
Screw
good.
that course.
All right. So remember to
Hold on,
sign.
hold on, hold on. Calm down, calm down.
Okay. Okay.
Get back to your, all right, get back to your tone. All right, now go.
Okay. I'll calm down. All right. So thank you for. Okay. Wait. Let me start again. So thank you for hanging out with us today. And remember to sign up for Robert's free 5-day online course. It's packed full of practical tools that will help you change your brain, to change your life. And if you have any questions, you can send that to us. Or if you have any questions or any topics you want us to cover, send them our way and we would love to discuss them and talk about them. And you can email the office. We'll have the link in the description.
Very good. Skills, orders at skills. No, what do you call it?
Office.
Support at skillstochange.com.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Support@skillstochange.com. Write us and we will answer your questions and direct you. If you need some help, we'd like to figure out how you can clear out this feeling of perfectionism or any other problem. Give us a call or give us an email. We'll help you. We'll guide you and direct you. We'll create you a better new life.
Yes, recreating that new life. Amazing. Awesome.
Good job.
All right.
As you say, and remember to sign up for the call. As soon as this is over, go to skillsofchange.com and sign up. Now tell them to remember and you tell them how to do it.
Yeah, it's a command.
Yeah.
Ah, damn, that's good, Robert. Okay. Um, I will remember that. It's going to be in the next one.
We will see. All right, good job. I'll get this edited and get it up.
Yeah.